doing. Let's bring into this conversation astrophysicist and author Neil DeGrasse. Tyson, Neil, give us the science, DeGrasse, the science perspective. What is going on here?
Yeah, Earth is pissed off. It's really what this. Sorry, I don't know how else to put it. No, I mean.
See, I do understand science.
Yeah. These are shots across our bow at this point.
Why?
We're reminded how susceptible our coastal cities are to flooding under these extreme weather circumstances, and most of civilization, in fact, was built on cities, on waterways for transportation, for
ports.
Commerce.
That's why we built cities.
That's why we have built cities where they are. And so while this could just simply be an unlucky year to have so many intense storms. By the way, how many people are reminded that tropical depressions are named alphabetically?
Right
on down the alphabet. Up to M,
yeah.
And often they don't make it to hurricane status. So you see hurricanes in sequence, they're not necessarily consecutive in the alphabet.
Right, because there are a whole bunch of tropical depressions that didn't.
They may be tropical storm, but never, and then they petered away. And these just one right after another. That could be just unlucky. However, consider that when you warm the planet, the capacity of the air to retain moisture goes up.
You're referencing climate change.
Yes, and generally when we think of weather, we don't think of clear blue skies. We think of what water is doing in the atmosphere. Is it snow, sleet, hail, rain, wind-driven? That's what when we think of weather, that's what we think of. And so when you store that much more moisture in the atmosphere, we are that much more susceptible to the extremes of weather. So a storm would be more intense. Drought areas would be more intense. And so these are shots across our bow. And to have people still saying, well, I choose not to follow what the consensus of observations and experiments gives us.
Well, let's just talk about the increase in sea level, right? That's not anything to do with whether you accept the science of climate change. It's got to do with whether you can read a ruler. Yeah. Right? Sea levels have.
Maybe we got to go back to elementary school.
Right, so this is not the stuff. What you're talking about, we know that the Earth is warming, we know that the water is warming, and we know that these storms that get their energy from warming waters do feed off of that.
And there's another important fact. The ocean is a huge repository of heat energy, and as well as carbon dioxide. And so even if we stopped taking carbon out of the ground, burning it, and entering it as a greenhouse gas, if we stop that tomorrow, there's still the lag time that the ocean would then be generating, influencing the climate of the atmosphere until that levels off.
Then from your perspective, we know that we're in a first responders moment as it relates to Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Let's go a month from now, as they are replanning the rebuild of these places. From your perspective, what are the most important elements that need to be considered?
Well, so first, anyone who wants to base policy on what might be research papers that are not in the consensus of what other observations have shown, that is risky. It's irresponsible to say, here's this one research paper, that's the truth, because it fulfills my political, cultural, religious, economic philosophy.
So how does a guy like you reconcile this? Why are we having this debate? It is not a global phenomenon, by the way. It's a uniquely American, and some people in the UK, where we've got this strength of argument that suggests that science should not be trusted.
And I can't imagine that someone who's studying astrophysics ever would have considered that religion or philosophy would be a roadblock
or economics or whatever it is, people cherry-picking science in the fringes of what is otherwise the emergent consensus of observation and experiment. And so that's disturbing to me. And I feel there's something happened. I turn back the other way, say to the electorate and say, what happened in your school system that you don't understand and recognize the meaning and impact and significance of what a scientific result is, how you arrive at them. And here's what I had a tweet a couple of weeks ago that went viral for reasons I did not expect. It was a week before the eclipse, and I said, next week's total solar eclipse. Odd that there are no deniers about this eclipse, because like climate change, the methods and tools of science predict it. And somehow that went viral.
I remember the tweet.
People resonated with that, and it's odd that you've got your cell phone and you're using all the science and technology that you want to be happy with.
But this one we're not going to.
Up comes up. Let's cherry pick that. No.
But to both of you, it goes beyond denying science. It's about good long-term decision making.
So I'll give you an example.
Responsible decision making.
But people aren't making long-term decisions, whether you're talking about business or science.
So if you build infrastructure to withstand rising sea levels, it costs you $1. If you repair that infrastructure after a flood, it's $4. But the difference is the $1 in the front end is private money. The $4 on the back end is taxpayer money.
Not only that, if you prevent it from happening forever in the future, then it's nobody's money.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
On that level.
Yes, but people aren't necessarily adding thoughtfulness to their calculation, because thoughtfulness isn't what shareholders are looking for, and it's not what voters look for.
That is the unraveling of an informed democracy. And
say that one more time.
If you have people deciding based on fringe information, then that is, and making policy based on it. Yes, it is the unraveling of an informed democracy. And I fear for the future of this country as a leader of the world, that's the country I grew up in.
Right.
We led the world. We were the first. Here's what the science is doing.
So there are some people, and by the way, you can tweet Neil deGrasse, and you should. He's an avid.
Neil Tyson.
I'm sorry, Neil Tyson is right. Right. Okay. And one of the things that people will say is this the moment in which to have this conversation about climate science?
Yeah, it should have happened 10 years ago, but sure.
Right.
Now is fine.
When there is a disaster, is there something wrong with having this discussion? I feel like the world's attention are on these topics right now.
You take any reason should be a good enough reason, especially Category 4 and 5 hurricanes laying waste to some of our most cherished cities and monuments and culture. By the way, when we talk about sea levels rising, let me benchmark this for you. If we lose the ice sheets on Greenland and Antarctica, just to know what the limit of this is, the sea level will rise to that of the Statue of Liberty's left elbow. Okay, that's what we're working in here. Okay, between where it is now and where that could be if we lose all the ice sheets, and anything in between is in between. That's fact number one. Fact number two: the rising sea levels. Doesn't happen like gradually, like, oh, there's the water level coming in. No, you know what happens? It happens at storm surges. Right. The storm is like an inch higher than the wall you previously built, and that inch is connected to an unlimited amount of water in the ocean, and that fills up your city. And you say, oh, well, that's just an exception. Well, that 1 in a 100-year storm now becomes 1 in a 10-year storm, 1 in a 5-year storm. Then all of a sudden you have a new coastline, and it's a new coastline you've got to deal with. And you start building your homes further and further inland, and eventually your entire city is 20 miles in because you've lost everything on the coastline.
Well, this is important though, because as we are developing, the heating of the Earth is going to lead. We think about our refugee crisis right now. It's going to be much bigger.
You know who is paying attention to the scientists? Are insurance companies, because it's going to cost them money if they're listening to the deniers. And the military, because the stability of nations around the world, when you have these low-lying countries, especially in Polynesia, where you have these islands that are low-lying, rise in sea level will displace huge populations, and you would have a refugee problem like the world has never seen.
Think about some of those African countries where people simply can't survive anymore.
Right.
They can't
just
farm.
Keep moving because
they can't live,
farm.
and they're moving for that reason.
So
it's not entirely politics why we're getting this refugee crisis.
Right, exactly. And if you destabilize national borders, that affects not only economies but also the security and the safety of people. So I'm here as an educator, as a scientist, just trying to get people to understand what it means to think about and recognize what a scientific objective truth is and how and why it should be heeded. Otherwise, what kind of country do you have?
At Neil Tyson. This is, you got to follow Neil deGrasse Tyson on Twitter. At Neil Tyson is correct.
At Neil Tyson, yeah.
And you got to watch his show. The new season of Star Talk premieres October 1st at 11 p.m. on Nat Geo. And I know you're going to be talking to Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, on that first episode, there's Katy Perry. There's the show we talk to celebrities, and we explore what role science has played in their lives. And so you come for the celebrity and you stay for the science.
Science and art are intertwined.
That as well.
Science and art have always been trying to address and solve what ails the human condition.
Why do you think people say, hey, you've got that down to a science? Or they say, you've raised that to an art? Both of those statements on this, they occupy the same coin.
Well,
they say some things are an art, some things are a science, some things are both.
And one other, my recent book is like #1 now on the New York Times bestseller.
And it's great because
it's completely crazy.
It fits in your pocket. You can read it easily.
It's astrophysics for people in a hurry. Yeah. It's crazy because we celebrate anytime anybody's science book lands anywhere on any bestseller list, because it's always the celebrity the pundit books and the celebrity tell-alls and
a science book.
It's a science book.
A science book that's out of this world.
So maybe people care again. I don't know.
Neil, thanks a million.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.